Heads will roll in this harrowing episode of television where Rhaenyra is faced with not one, not two, but three people she has weird romantic entanglements with. Grief-ridden but rallying, Rhaenyra finally takes King's Landing, and meanwhile, Alicent and all of her children think that hoods are just as good of a disguise in a very Clark Kent-esque kind of way that makes no sense to me. Listen, all in all, this was a beautiful episode of television where two of my favorite girly pops ended up back in the same place. Hey, besties! You know that weird little ache that you get when you finish a book, movie, or a TV show that just completely alters your brain chemistry? You know that feeling when you close the cover or the credits roll and you're suddenly just supposed to move on with your life? Absolutely not. Because you have theories. You have feelings. You probably have a new fictional boyfriend that you need to gush about. And honestly, you deserve a place where people can gather who get it. That's why I created Two Femme, Two Furious, a cultural salon and community space for the she's, the gays, and the theys who know that pop culture is never just about entertainment. It's where we fall in love. It's where we make meaning of the world around us, and it's where we can figure ourselves out. And now, with Two Femme, Two Furious, it's where we can finally find each other. This is the kind of space that feels like a group chat with your smartest and coolest friends. Inside, there is Hot Girls Help, where community isn't just a concept, but a value that we practice. So when life gets heavy and you need help, this is where you can go for resources, support, or mutual aid. It's where we can show up for each other. On the pod, I'm always saying it takes a village. And this right here is where we get to build one that is supportive and nurturing. There's also the Common Threads Book Club, which is basically the lowest pressure book club in existence. Every month, we will choose a theme, and you can read any book in any genre at any length as long as it fits. We are just reading for joy and good conversations with our besties. There's the shared joy space, where we can put down some of the weight of the world and choose to notice the good things that are happening on purpose. You can share your weekly wins here. You can share your pets being unreasonably cute. You can share all of the beautiful, tender things that are happening in your life and in the world, because radical joy is a form of resistance. Every podcast episode will have its own discussion thread for you to meet in the chat and talk about what we are consuming together. Plus, there are additional spaces just for books, TV, or movies, so you can spiral, obsess, analyze, and emotionally overinvest in whatever you are currently watching or reading. And yes, there will be bonus content starting with a full community deep dive into ACOTAR, which will include buddy reads, virtual hangouts, and bonus podcast episodes. There is also a community map, so the people that you're laughing and crying with online might actually become your future coffee dates, your bookstore wandering partners, your I saw this and thought of you friends in real life. There's also a monthly zine filled with themed submissions, member spotlights, recommendations, creativity, and all other sorts of piece of fangirl magic. And to deepen our feminist lore and action, every single month we will gather for cultural salons with guest experts who can teach us a little bit more about feminism, media, history, and culture, all while helping to build a shared library of knowledge and resources. This isn't just a fan page, and it isn't just a companion space for the podcast. It's a home for people who take their fangirling and their feminism seriously. All of that for $12 a month. Less than a movie ticket, and more thoughts per dollar than anything else that's going on in your algorithm bubble right now. So if you've been looking for your people, the ones who will analyze symbolism with you like it's life or death, thirst over fictional characters with zero shame, send you memes at 2 a.m., celebrate your wins like they are their own, and remind you that you are not alone and that we can still build a kinder, better, more equitable world together, come on in. We're saving you a seat. Come for the fangirling, stay for your found family. and leave knowing that you're part of something that is actually trying to create a world that we want to live in. For more details, go and check out the link in the show notes. After way too long apart, and now I can't wait to see what chaos ensues right after this. Hello. Welcome back to Femme and Furious. I am your host, Julia Rose Portella. I'm getting back off of a week long in Universal. We're in the middle of a heat wave. It's 4th of July weekend. I have a headache like no other, so we are just going to roll through this episode in a quickie kind of fashion. A little bit of housekeeping. I'll be back tomorrow with an episode called Dames of Democracy. It's going to be a little bit of feminist follow through. This is an annual tradition to celebrate the women in our government who are doing some incredible things, and also to give us some tangible action steps to take to make our country a better country. On this, the 10th quarter quell, 250th annual Hunger Games. Anyway, happy 4th of July to those of you that are celebrating here in America. So I'll be back with that tomorrow. I will be back on Sunday with episodes 6, 7, and 8 of Every Year After, so we can put Barry's Bay to rest and just have a hot romantic-y summer. Letting you know what's coming up. Friend of the pod, Penn Cole, is doing a reread of her entire series, which I was planning on doing and starting now. So this just works out that she's doing the same thing and has already mapped out the chapters for me. I did post chapters in the Two Femme, Two Furious membership. I'm probably going to be tweaking and updating that based off of whatever she has put down. But just to let you know, we are going chapters 1 through 16 of Spark of the Everflame on the July 10th episode. So starting next Friday. Every Friday after, we will be covering different segments of the chapters, all leading up to the midnight release of Burn of the Everflame. I'm hoping to have Penn Cole come back on once that releases. I will be going to the midnight release of the book. I will be doing a giveaway of a signed copy of the book. So we have a lot going on for the Kindred Curse saga and celebrating one of my favorite authors and one of my favorite series, the Kindred Curse saga and Penn Cole. If you're into this hot romantic summer that we're having between House of the Dragon and Kindred's Curse, guess what? We're doing ACOTAR as bonus content in the Two Femme, Two Furious community. Same thing, we're starting that read of ACOTAR. It's got a day-by-day breakdown for a 2-week read-through starting on July 15th. So we're starting in the middle of the month. That way you have some time to get into the membership. If you'd like to join us, there will be bonus episodes of the podcast specific for ACOTAR. So hang tight if that's something that you're interested in. You can find that over there. Other things that I would like to let you know. Number 1, I will be doing a look at Supergirl. Not sure when that will come out. I will be doing a look at The Bear. Not sure when that will come out. I will be doing a look at Elle, which is the prequel to Legally Blonde. Not sure when that will come out, but all of that will be coming out at some point this month, even maybe some of that starting this week. I have to figure out when we're going to fit everything into the schedule. If there's stuff that you'd like for me to cover that we haven't talked about or touched on, I would really love to hear from you. Send me an email, femmeandfuriouspod@gmail.com. Last but not least, I'm doing a free giveaway for the membership. I'm offering 3 free lifetime memberships to the community, so long as you leave a comment and a review over on Apple Podcasts. So as long as you go and do that, cool, you're entered. I'll be announcing that on the July 10th podcast through that week. I'll keep announcing it. I'll make sure that I get in touch with you. I'll be announcing it on socials as well. Thank you guys so much for the support. Love you all. Let's get into this episode of television. Again, this is probably going to be a little bit of a quickie because I've only just watched it. Literally, normally I watch an episode at least 3 times before I podcast on it. But last week, your girl was traveling and this week coming home. And now it's 4th of July weekend. It's been a little bit rough. I'm a little rougher on the edges right now. So thank you for bearing with me. This is a blanket spoiler warning about all of Game of Thrones, some Night of the Seven Kingdoms stuff that I know I'm bringing up today because I wrote it in my show notes, and whatever else may come up. Nothing from the book that will be giving away future events, but we will talk about maybe some changes that they've made from stuff in the book, etc., etc. So the name of this episode, Queen's Landing, which honestly, before the episode even started, just seeing that actually got me really emotional. I'm like kind of emotional just like talking about it. And I'm excited to talk about why and my sort of wave of emotion through that. It is written by Sarah Hess and directed by Claire Kilner. So let's jump into this episode. We basically start off right where we left off last episode, which is like the direct aftermath of Jace's death. So it is devastating, and yet I couldn't stop thinking about this while I was away and like ruminating on the series and thinking about where they're going to go and rereading the book and all of this stuff. You know, Jace is a 16-year-old boy. And when you are 16, whether you're a boy or a girl, there is something about you that feels invincible and that you don't necessarily realize the weight of your own consequences. And I know people will say when they're 16, you know things and you don't know things, but truly, like, your brain is not fully developed yet, and you just don't. You just don't know things the same way, to the same capacity. And so I couldn't help thinking about this and like starting this episode where we see, you know, this undershot from the water of Jace sort of floating above and other bodies sort of floating through and like the blood spilling out and into the water, right? You know, this like merging of these things that they talk about all the time, fire and blood, you know, salt and sea, like having those sort of like really mixed in this moment of this like aftermath of Jace's death is, I thought, really prominent and poignant and beautiful in its own sort of Shakespearean kind of way, you know, very tragic kind of way. But this is what 16-year-old boys do best. They do stupid things and they make decisions where they don't realize the full weight of the consequences of their action. And for somebody like Jace, who, unlike Bela, has never even seen combat, to think that he would just be fine because he's on dragon and like unprepared for the extent of the breadth of this battle, paired with the wrench in the plans that is Sheep Stealer and Rhaena, you know, I thought that this was just like a really good, if not fantastical and dramatic way of like emphasizing that teenage boys are just dumb. They're just a different breed. I'm not saying girls aren't either teenage girls, but they operate differently. And the things that they're risking or caring about, I think maybe psychologically are different. I'm not a psychologist or a therapist or anyone other than someone with a personal interest in this stuff. I have zero receipts to back up what I'm saying right now. I have done zero research on this. I could have, I'm sure, but I haven't. So if you are somebody who has expertise in this area, you can let me know. But this is, I think, just like a known fact that our brains are not fully developed, and particularly the way that boys' brains develop and girls' brains develop. I think that this is like just to be expected from a teenage boy who has been sort of cooped up, feeling like he's done all of this amazing stuff for his mom and wants to go and see the action, and not really understanding what that actually means. And then we're hit with like the real performance of this episode, which is, you know, Emma Darcy in all their glory, doing what they do best. I think this episode really highlighted and emphasized what an incredible talent that Emma Darcy is. It's the most moved that I have been in this series for so long, like for so long. And I've enjoyed this series. It's not been a bad series. Like, I liked season 2. I know it wasn't for everybody. I think that there are some serious problems with it that season 3 is obviously interested in rectifying, but I really didn't dislike season 2 at all. I really love this exploration of grief. And so I also just love being vindicated by the things that I'm picking up on as a baby media analytic, and then hearing Emma Darcy talk about the decisions that they make and what was going on for them as an actor after the episode is so vindicating to me, because my notes that I put down are the immediate grief and recognition that Jace is dead. Rhaenyra recognizes right away. As soon as Rhaenyra sees him on that cot, on that stretcher, she knows he's dead. Yet her grief pushes her to have this confrontation with her about everything that she is feeling. And we get 3 of the 5 stages of grief here. And then after the episode, I didn't write down the direct quote, but Emma Darcy talks about how, as an actor, that was a deliberate choice that they were making, was to engage with these specific pieces of grief as Rhaenyra is going through her journey. And so, number one, we have denial, right? We have Rhaenyra talking to him and posing questions, even though she knows he's dead. So right away she says, "What did you do?" Like a little boy who has stolen someone's wine goblet, right? Like, what did you do? Sits down next to the stretcher and multiple times goes to put her hands on him and knows that she can't. Like, it's almost this internal battle that she's raging with herself, that she knows if she touches him, she knows it'll be real. And so when she finally does, she hits him. She starts almost pounding on him. It's not mega violent, but it's not like a petting of the face or like something super tender either. And as she is doing this, she is saying, "How could you do this to me? How could you do this to me? How could you lock me in my room and deny me my wishes to go and fight and do what I want to do as queen? But like, how could you leave this world and leave me here to it? How could you do this to me?" Like, the amount of grief that comes out in this anger and resentment for what he has done that has led to his death. And then the bargaining that comes almost immediately after that, where she says, "Answer me, please." And then she picks him up for a hug and she starts hysterical crying. And now I'm hysterical crying. I'm not right now, but I was when I was watching it. I just thought this performance was so moving and so touching. Rhaenyra is a lot of things, and I think that's why she's such an interesting character to explore through this lens of feminism, because Rhaenyra has never been somebody who is in the box. And this is something that we're going to talk about sort of, through the episode. And so maybe it's best to come back to this in a little bit, but like, I think that we just recognize as women, or as, anyone who gender expresses feminine, or anyone who gender expresses different than they, are born into, or like anything that is sort of derivative of the path. And by the path, I mean like of the patriarchy, like a white male, is this like desire for people to put us into these boxes. And so we do this like all the time in society. We want somebody to be nerdy. We want somebody to be an athlete. We want somebody who's book smart. We want somebody to be extroverted or introverted. Like, we have these categories societally that just continuously shave off different pieces of themselves in order to fit some kind of mold. We were just talking about this. My sister just graduated high school. The valedictorian of her grade was not only an incredible student athlete who received tons of accolades, but also somebody who received clearly a lot of academic accolades. Two typically conflicting tropes that we see, right? We usually see like a dumb athlete, or an athlete who is dependent on their athletic ability to get them through school in some capacity. So I love when like people or characters sort of break that mold. And for Rhaenyra, this woman that we've seen from the time that she's a young girl, covered in blood, tomboyish, a bit roguish, didn't really fit in. She's not doing needlepoint, right? Like, she's very much this Arya Stark character who we're so familiar with and endeared to, that we have such a deep affection for. And now we have this other character in Rhaenyra who like is not the status quo. She's not going to be a queen that is on par with Alicent as a queen. They're just very different in the way that they express their femininity, or the way that they even want to express their femininity. And so like Rhaenyra as this character who just breaks the mold and does it here in the way that she's grieving. And I just thought it was incredible. So after the Ballad of the Gullet, Rhaena heads back to the Vale. She is going to seek asylum with Jane Arryn. Jane Arryn, by the way, looking fucking fantastic in that outfit. Low-key jealous. Like, she came out and I was like, she's serving right now. It was giving. So I just want to throw it back to what is happening at the Vale, okay? Rhaena is at the Vale, or was at the Vale, with Rhaenyra's other children. Now, one of them is Joffrey, who is the last of the boys of
her marriage and partnership with Rhaenyra. Okay, before Rhaenyra dipped the fuck out. Even though, anyway, whatever. Let's not get into the bastard of it all right now. Anyway, Rhaenyra then has 2 children with Daemon, Aegon, and Viserys. So Rhaena is supposed to be playing Babysitter's Club with these 2 boys and keeping them safe because they were shipped away to Pentos to ensure that Rhaenyra's line would be able to thrive and succeed in the midst of this war. Okay? Instead of getting on that boat at the end of season 2, Rhaena decides to stay and bond with Sheepstealer. And that's where we open the season up with. So this is important because right away, before we even have anything to do with the Gullet, Rhaena has already betrayed Rhaenyra. Nothing is more important to Rhaenyra than ensuring the line and ensuring her kids are safe. Like, even outside of the politics of it all, Rhaenyra loves her children. It's always been clear to us that she loves her children. She's always had a deep relationship, particularly with Jace, that we've gotten to see on screen. So before even finding out that Sheepstealer and Rhaena were the ones that caused Jace's death, essentially, Rhaena has already betrayed Rhaenyra by not going and protecting those children. Now, imagine what happens when Rhaenyra finds out that it was Rhaena. Rhaena is the one that lost to her crown prince and one of the dragons on their side. Like, we're down some dragons now because of this. And we don't really know what's going on with the 2 boys, Aegon and Viserys, because nobody's with them going to Pentos. So we don't really know what's going on with them at this point. So Rhaena then offers her protection with Sheepstealer to Jane Eyre. I guess Jane Eyre's kind of like not a fool. She knows that she can't force a dragon out of the Vale. She knows that she's in no position to send Rhaena on her way if she really has bonded with Sheepstealer. And yet she does make her position clear that she doesn't want to see Rhaena again. And honestly, Rhaena's promise to protect the Vale is just an empty promise. We don't even know that this dragon speaks Valyrian. Like, this dragon did not grow up hearing these commands and learning High Valyrian. And so she's making these offers with a bond to a dragon that she doesn't understand, with a dragon that she clearly can't control. Even though the illusion of control with dragons is just a fickle thing anyway, which Viserys tells us in season 1. But like, what is she actually promising here other than she could potentially make things worse, just like she did at the Battle of the Gullet? If I was Rhaena, I would be afraid to get back on Sheepstealer. I would be afraid before I spent more time with that dragon and we figured out what was going on. I don't care if you ate his regurgitated sheep in a knockoff version of Toothless and Hiccup. You got to do a little bit more than that to bond with your dragon. Okay? So let's leave Rhaena over there in the Vale. Cool. We then go to the Riverlands with Daemon. We love a song on Game of Thrones. Honestly, I don't think that there is any that is as good as Alice Three Fingers, which is from A Night of the Seven Kingdoms, which is just a phenomenal song. Anyway, I'm going to tag a version of it in the show notes in case you didn't watch A Night of the Seven Kingdoms. Number 1, can't recommend it enough. You should. But number 2, it's not the version from the show. So you're not going to get any spoilers. It's a picture of the characters, but it doesn't do anything else. But it's a Irish band that is singing it. So you'll be able to get like the gist of that song. It's very funny. So we get this song in this moment, and I'm just going to read it out to you, read the lyrics. It's a call and response song where it starts and it's going around kind of like different people from this battle. I'll tell a tale of a fearsome war. Thank our lucky stones. 10,000 came, but we had more, and pressed them to the bloody shore. Now we can't see the water's floor because the lake's full of their bones. Now they're all chanting, fish feed, fish feed, fish feed. We're just going to talk about that in a second. Second verse. Cool? Smashed to smithereens, we drown the fucking greens. I'll tell you a tale of a cunning trick. How did it come to pass? Aemond, they said, run quick. With his one good eye, he looks a prick. We've got Daemon, so go stick your dragon up your ass. So once again, kind of giving us this like ultimate showdown. We are just loading up the tension between Aemond and Daemon. So the Battle of the Gullet that we saw last episode is sort of like a combination of a couple of different battles. And one of them is also a battle which ends up being titled Fish Feed and sort of like rolled all into one battle that they show last episode. Okay. Fish Feed in the book has no characters of note. We don't care about a single person that's there. So I think that they ended up rolling it into last week's episode to give us some fight with Coralus, some of the stuff that's happening on the seas, some of the stuff that we briefly see happening with Daemon, so that like we are engaged with this battle. We're in like a very battle heavy section of the book right now. But when I say that there's like not literally a single character in Fish Feed that we care about, everyone that we meet in a lot of these battles at these parts of the book are like characters that we meet for like a couple of pages at most before they die. So that's why they're chanting Fish Feed here. It's to sort of nod to this fact that was part of this battle. Now, it's supposed to be the bloodiest battle in Westerosi history. I'm not on the internet right now. I'm just being honest with you guys. If you're following me on Instagram, sorry. The best place that you're going to be able to engage with me is over in the school community, the Two Femme, Two Furious community, because I really just can't on social media right now. And I put out a PSA last week and I'm putting out one right now. If you want to run my social media, please send me a message, femmeandfuriouspod@gmail.com. We will work something out because I simply do not have the time. I really just, everything in me is like a visceral ick about being online right now. However, I can tell you right now, I almost can hear people on the internet complaining about how this wasn't nearly bloody enough, considering that this is the bloodiest battle in Westerosi history. Anyway, is anyone else thinking about Battle of the Bastards? Because to me, I always think about that being like a really bloody, also like one of my favorite episodes of Game of Thrones. Definitely bloodier than like what we saw last week, but I think we're only seeing the Battle of the Gullet / Fish Feed from a very specific and particular lens of the blacks, where like in the book we're getting multiple POVs. About half of the stuff that we're getting about what's happening in the books comes from a character named Mushroom, and some of what Mushroom tells us is true, and some of what Mushroom tells us is just like filling in the gaps based off of like court gossip or gossip that happens around town or what maybe he thinks is what's going on. So the show has already come out and said that they are establishing the show as canon for what actually happens, the truth of the story. So clearly, marked as one of the bloodiest battles, but maybe just simply by the people that were there and who had witnessed it. And they didn't get to witness any other battles in Westerosi history. So who knows? I thought this scene where they have the fish feed chant, this reverence and respect that is shown to Daemon, I think it's very important for us to remember that Daemon was the Lord Commander, which we get a reference to later in this episode. But like Daemon was well respected amongst the Gold Cloaks. Daemon was well respected amongst the people that he led. He inspired loyalty. And you can just tell by the way that he interacts with some of these people that it's not just fear. Sure, that might be part of it. And for some people, that definitely is. Like, fear and loyalty can go hand in hand, I suppose, if you're a bad leader. And yet, when Daemon was working on behalf of Viserys, like, loved him and really did, for as much as he wanted to undercut him or maybe felt a little spiteful that it was never going to be his throne, also did love his brother and care about him and therefore garnered the respect, partly for his own game, but partly to, wield for his brother. But I thought this was such a really good scene to show us that Daemon is somebody that people respect, that people like to fight for, that people can rally behind. And that's, I think, important for us to know and is a benefit to Rhaenyra, honestly. He also calls it King's Landing, which of course it is. He's like, off to King's Landing we go. And yet this title, which is never used in the show, or at least was not used this episode, as Queen's Landing, and what it means for the first time for a queen to sit upon this throne, for a queen to be the rightful heir. It was almost jarring. I thought that maybe because it was the title of the episode that somebody would say it. And in this moment when he is reading this message and he's about to say, I'm off to King's Landing, I thought maybe he might just say it. Or maybe somebody would push back and say, hey, it's Queen's Landing now, or something like that. And I guess it just speaks for itself. Like, we don't need to have it be that heavy-handed. You can just trust your audience to be smart enough to understand what the fuck this, title means. But I thought maybe, because he really seems to be in such a different space right now with Rhaenyra, and where he knows his allegiance to Rhaenyra needs to be. And so before he fucks off, he has a conversation with Alice, our favorite Scottish witch, who honestly was giving some major cool girl vibes here. If you're following the every summer after coverage or every year, Alice says about Harrenhal, I've seen it given from hand to hand and none seem to cherish it. Why should it not come to me? Now, mind you, Alice is potentially hundreds of years old. We don't really know how old she is. It's supposed to be ambiguous. Alice also is a witch. And so there's something like a girl with her crystals and asking you for your sun, moon, and rising about Alice that I love and resonate with and probably would be. And I think that she is just like, hey, people keep coming into Harrenhal. They don't really care about the property. It's never really kept up with. It's been cursed. It's magical. I'm magical. It's a love match made in heaven. All of you men should just get the fuck out. And she wants to take care of this property. She wants to be able to honor it. She wants to be able to honor the magic that is clearly displaying itself like through every room of this castle. And says it, I've seen it given from hand to hand and none seem to cherish it. Why should it not come to me? Daemon says back to her, you have neither name nor title nor noble husband. The crown is not in the habit of giving out castles to midwives. To which she says, and is midwife the sum of what you think I am? And again, coming back to this idea of women being put into a box or put under the name of a title, right? That is often lesser than what they're bringing to the table. Like, if not for Alice, who Daemon just like 5 seconds ago was like, I would thank you, but I don't know what your purpose is yet. And she says, I just got you 40,000 rivermen. How about that, Daemon Targaryen? The way the men are consistently trying to put women into a box that is a lesser label than even how they would perceive them in society is fascinating when it comes to a conversation like this between Daemon and Alice. Because obviously, a midwife is not the sum of what she is. She has just been the catalyst for the grandest awakening and humbling of Daemon Targaryen that we've ever seen. And so she's annoyed by this, right? Like, think about any guy that you've ever been in a situationship with that's been like, it didn't even mean anything or something like that. Like, somebody who tries to diminish everything that you are, everything that you experience together. And literally, Alice's response to this is, remember what I told you. And what she's referencing here, in case you have forgotten, you need a little refresher, is the fact that Alice facilitated a dream and prophecy. And, we pay attention to our Targaryen prophecies, in which Daemon saw his own death at Harrenhal. And for that, pop off, queen. We love you. So we get this like brief touch in with Larys and Aegon, who escape after, pirate rogues from the Triarchy come through. And essentially, like, Aegon dips out. He's like, fuck you, Larys. And he's off to find Kristen Cole. Cool. So that's where Aegon is, just to touch on it. Back to our regularly scheduled feminism right now. So there is this interesting conversation between Daemon and Mysaria, which is interesting not only because her accent is fucking weird every single time. I'm like, what are we doing here? But because Daemon says that Rhaenyra is risking a lot on the word of Alicent Hightower. And Mysaria kind of agrees with him and questions whether or not she's making this decision based off of a bond that Alicent and Rhaenyra had when they were younger. And so Daemon and Mysaria, who have this like rich history, Mysaria, who has lost her child, essentially because of Daemon, who was put in like harm's way because of Daemon, who was used as a political pawn because of Daemon, still has this connection to him where it's like the enemy of my enemy is my friend. And it's like, okay, well, our enemy is still Alicent Hightower. And so, like, if you're also her enemy, then guess what? We can be girly pops together over here, sitting and talking shit. And even then, Massaria is putting this question out to Daemon in a way that, to me, you can let me know if you felt different, implied that when she was talking about the friendship between Alicent and Rhaenyra was a very queer-coded thing. Like, do you think that her feelings run deeper for Alicent? And so she can't see things clearly. In which Massaria is hurt because Massaria seems to have feelings and romantic and sexual intention with Rhaenyra. And obviously Daemon is married to Rhaenyra. So, like, all of these people that Rhaenyra has had this, like, sexual or romantic connections to are all sort of, like, loading into the pot to be stirred at whatever point. And so it felt very queer coded to me. And I know that the showrunners have talked about this before. And I know that Emma and Olivia Cook have also talked about this, where their younger friendship in season 1 in particular is definitely supposed to have some, like, queer connotation to it. And so we can anticipate that that's still running through these threads even into adulthood. But, like, really interesting the way that Massaria phrased this to Daemon. Like, it just felt very much like, not only can we bond over the fact that we both hate Alicent, but, like, we can both bond over the fact that we hate Alicent in a small part because we both love or have affections for Rhaenyra, and Rhaenyra has affections for this other person. At least that's how I took it. You can let me know if you were reading it a little bit differently, but there was some points of this love triangle that just felt like they were touching here. And then we get, news that Aemond is flying to Harrenhal. And so Daemon and Aemond showdown once again loading. The prophecy is in full motion. The wheels are spinning. So let's head over to the Red Keep. Alicent is telling Sir Rickard to fuck off, essentially. And then she ends her statement to him with, "I command it," which was very hot girl to me. Olivia Cook, baby, very, very hot girl coded. I loved this. I love seeing Alicent after season 2 in this, like, dawning of the realization that she has been used and objectified and manipulated again and again and again. The fact that she can come to terms with that, have this conversation with Rhaenyra and then come and stand in her power here and be like, "I command it." So great to me. I think that she's had such an interesting arc that was, like, really fascinating to see. And then we cut back kind of to Rhaenyra, who is in her 4th stage of grief. She's in depression. Nobody in court seen her for a couple of days. People are worried about her. Daemon, decides to go in and is not particularly tender with her. This is not a space for her to be safe or soft, or at least not in this moment, though there are definitely times with Daemon when she's been able to do that. And yet there's something about Daemon that, like, lights the fire in Rhaenyra. And so he says he died fighting for his queen, as was his desire. And she said, "He defied me." And it's so funny because I literally paused my TV to write down in my notes, "Hey, that's what kids do. Kids defy their parents all the time." And then unpaused it and Daemon goes, "That's what sons do." And I thought it was such a brilliant conversation that these two have. This juxtaposition of seeing Queen's Landing as the title of this episode, knowing where we're going to end up in the Red Keep and what the end of this episode is going to bring us, right? Or at least to some idea, when we see something like Queen's Landing, we can understand what to anticipate in this episode versus, like, the absolute heartbreak to get there. Like, everything that Rhaenyra has had to sacrifice that she mentions here, that she's like, these 2 boys who used to hide in my skirts that I'm supposed to protect are now dead. And for what? Like, for an Iron Throne? Like, that's what I'm supposed to care about? And so she's kind of going through, like, a crisis of faith, despite the fact that she has always believed in this prophecy. And that's what Daemon uses to get her up and get her rallied and get her going, which, like, nothing for nothing. But if Matt Smith was speaking High Valyrian in my ear, like that, we're having sex. Don't know how she wasn't horny after that. I was like, this is immediate smash. So back with our girl Alicent, right? We have Lord Jasper, who is master of the laws, has been around since Viserys, right? Figures out, based off of Sir Rickard, what Alicent is doing, and his solution is like, fuck it, if the world is ending, let's just do a rape. So it's been 2 episodes. We've had 2 rapes so far, or near rapes, or definitely at least 2 sexual assaults. And not only is it that he is going to do this thing and clearly ready to act on it, but that he has a kink over it, that he's like, plead with me. I felt my stomach sink. I started to get like cold sweats. I mean, I knew that she wasn't going to actually be sexually assaulted on screen. At least, you know what? I've thought that once or twice before. And then there are scenes like Outlander where sometimes I'm just like, you blew my mind and you've ruined my life. So, you know, when you have been in a position, like I think any woman or anyone who is under the thumb of the patriarchy to any capacity has this fear of sexual assault in this way. So it's like almost always visceral to watch it. Just like the slow riding up of her dress that happens before somebody walks in, and like the relief that we also feel, even though we're not particularly endeared to Alicent at this moment in time. And so the way that like every man on this show has inappropriately sexualized Alicent in some way is just so fascinating to me. It's giving me a little bit of Euphoria vibes where I'm like, hello, can anyone see her besides a sexual being? Like the answer is no. Like a lot of these people don't respect her outside of this. And so to go to this conversation that she then has with Helena, where she gets very real and Alicent admits that like Rhaenyra is coming, the guards will heed a queen, meaning you. And Helena's like, you were the queen. Look what happened to you. So they are recognizing something in each other in this plight of womanhood and nobility, where they recognize that the title of queen for both of them, dowager queen and queen, you know, as in, hello, I'm currently the queen of this realm. I am married to the king of this realm, like doesn't fucking mean anything. And so again, in this episode that is titled Queen's Landing, where Rhaenyra is coming to be a queen, she is coming to be a leader of Westeros, when we are watching 2 queens in real time in a position where nobody really respects them or gives them too much thought, like laughs at them sometimes even. So just really, really good stuff, like with those 2 parallels there. So Helena, friend to all animals, is looking at her little caterpillar. She's like, bugs might be a niche hobby, but I'm going to give up this life of nobility to be an incestuous trad wife and raise chickens. And I think that's going to work better for me. To which I say, get it, girl. You do you. Rhaenyra then makes for King's Landing with Sword and Shield Daemon by her side. Okay. This works on me every time. Daemon and Rhaenyra is so hot to me, and they know that they're hot because they're doing a Quinn over it. That's how you know that we're all down bad, because clearly we're all searching for it so much that Quinn decided to give Matt Smith a Quinn episode over his Daemon Targaryenness. As Rhaenyra is on her way out, lonely girl Missaria, who's like, XOXO, I hope you will send for me, tries once again to soil and poison the relationship with Daemon by saying, remember which one of us has been faithful. And so I thought it was interesting in the after episode, they said like, there's this fight for Rhaenyra's soul, and it's being fought by these 2 different philosophies in Missaria and Daemon, which I thought was like a really maybe interesting choice. And it seems like from what a lot of people have been saying about this season, that they're going to try and really make us hate Rhaenyra by the end of it, to which I will say, I'm 10 toes down for my girl. So I just really struggle with this too. It's giving me like some Dany vibes. Like, why are we trying to make Rhaenyra a character that we no longer like? It's so bizarre to root for Dany for, 7 seasons, to get to this last season and dislike her so much and not know how we feel about her and feel conflicted about her. What is that saying, right? Like this idea of somebody who can dream of a better future, somebody like Rhaenyra, who
Her moniker was the realm's delight, right? That is clearly growing into something that is much darker, especially in the wake of the loss of her son. So we've got Kristen Cole and crew see Vhagar go overhead. And so they're marching to Harrenhal now. Aemond shows up to Harrenhal. He fucks it up. He's just like Dragonfire left, Dragonfire right, to the front. Back it up now, y'all. One hop this time. Like, he is just fucking it up. And so it's supposed to be this, like, Aemond and Daemon comp. They're supposed to be these like mirrors and parallels to each other in many ways. And same thing, Daemon shows up to Harrenhal, like, looking for a fight, comes upon Sir Simon, who's sitting down having a meal with his family, and ends up sitting down and having a meal with Sir Simon. Like, this very civilized approach to like how they're going to negotiate and work together. Aemond, no time for that. He does a little stabby right to Sir Simon, which was like a real tough loss for me personally. I love Sir Simon. This was hard to watch. Kills the rest of the line essentially, but receives a kidney shot through his armor from Paxter, who he immediately kills. And then he kind of falls to his feet, like slowly dying out in front of Alice, who has now asked for Harrenhal and has been denied, has this great, line with Daemon where she says, if I ask you for food and you give me rubies, I'm still going to starve because I can't eat them no matter how pretty they are. Like, great stuff between the two of them. And so she feels betrayed by Daemon after she has just essentially handed them a victory. If that's what victory can be called, even Corlys says, like, if this is what victory looks like, I don't want to see another one. So basically, our girl Alice Rivers has manifested the handing of Harrenhal to her. So all of leadership is dead. The Strongs are dead, or at least the Strongs that were at this castle are dead. And Daemon is dying in front of her, though she does not seem ready to take a knife to him. She seems a little bit like, I can use this to my advantage. Harrenhal is mine. Huzzah. Hell hath no fury like a woman scorned. We then finally have Rhaenyra entering the Red Keep. More importantly, we have Daemon Targaryen defending Rhaenyra as she enters in through King's Landing and into the castle. And all I kept thinking about was, Daddy's home, home for me. I know you've been waiting for my loving all day. I just think that anytime that Daemon is on screen, I'm going to be horny. And I feel like we all just need to get comfortable with that. It's so hot watching him slice people down for her. He is shield and sword, and I love that. So Sir Rickard and all of the Hightower guards fucking laugh at Rhaenyra, which really pissed me the fuck off, when she draws her sword to fight her way to the throne with Daemon. To which all of the gold cloaks kind of come in, and we're in like a brief moment of like, what is going to happen here? Where Daemon then says, well met, Sir Luther. And Sir Luther then responds, the City Watch remembers our commander, Daemon Targaryen, and Queen Rhaenyra, the one true heir to the Iron Throne. Fuck yeah. I was fist pumping. I was so excited when this happened. And again, like, just this reflection of the fact that Daemon has inspired the loyalty of these people, and that because of that, that is why they're able to secure the throne at this moment in time. So great. Larys, before he dipped out, basically playing both sides as Larys is wont to do, has captured Otto Hightower for the Blacks, who, when Daemon finds him, brings him to Rhaenyra and demands that Rhaenyra kills him. He's like, Aegon's not here. Aegon abdicated the throne and left the city. So we don't really know where Aegon is. But what we do have is a traitor to the throne, and also somebody who could take the place of Aegon as far as like a, hello, we're saying that this reign has ended. Otto Hightower then has the audacity, as men are going to have, to tell Rhaenyra that Daemon should kill him because he doesn't want to be hacked at. Rude. Ultimately, though, she never has received any of this training, and so she does ultimately fumble it. She literally doesn't get his head in one fell swoop, which, like, by the way, holding a fucking sword is tough. Swords are heavy. Do you know how heavy a sword is?
and then you have to bring that through somebody's physical body piece. I mean, I don't know from personal experience how easy it is to chop off somebody's head. I could imagine it takes some heft to swing the sword through some cartilage and bone and stuff like that. Ew, like gross. I just feel like doing it in 2 hacks is still pretty good. I think I would be taking much longer. I wouldn't be doing it to begin with, but if I really was in the position like Rhaenyra, where you have to send a message, because if it was a king, guess what? The king would do it. You know, there is a rhyme and a reason to why she's doing this. She does it in 2 hacks. The head's on the floor. We hang out with the head for a second of Otto Hightower, and then we get this look on Daemon's face like he is ready to fuck Rhaenyra right now on the throne room floor in Otto Hightower's blood. Like, he looks like so pleased by this, while Rhaenyra is just completely devastated, like crying to the point where like snot was coming down her nose. This is so hard for her. And, you know, when you're grieving one thing, you grieve them all. And so there's something in her that knows that, like, killing this person is going to hurt somebody else that I care about. And even though I don't really, know all of the ways that my relationship with Alicent broke, I do care about this person. And I know that she cares about her father. So I think part of that is going through there. I think Jace, is running through her mind at this moment. And like, just the fact that like she's already had some questions about what is she sacrificing as far as her integrity or in herself, to accomplish this goal. And what does that say about her? And I think that that's the arc that we are going to see her go on over the next 6 episodes and potentially even into next season. So we get this, long walk mimicking Viserys' long walk to the throne when he's dying. We've got this long walk that Rhaenyra takes in the blood of Otto Hightower, and this reflection shot in the blood of Rhaenyra sitting on the throne. And so we don't see it with our eyes, we see it through the reflection of Otto Hightower's blood. I just thought that was like sick. Just really, really incredible stuff that they're touching on and doing as she's navigating this transition to power. And so when Rhaenyra sits, and I don't know if this was intentionally, because I am always thinking about something through a spiritual lens, but your left side of your body is your feminine side in spirituality. That is the side that Rhaenyra sits with facing forward. She's not sitting on the throne head on, which is also an interesting choice. She is sort of not in a fetal position, but she's definitely protecting some things about herself. And she's holding Jace's sword on her left side in front of her as a form of protection. And so it's her feminine side that is there in the foreground in this shot of her sitting on the throne for the first time. And then we have this ending scene where the guards who have captured Alicent and Helena, because guess what? Just throwing a hood over your hair is not going to make people recognize that you're not the fucking crown, the fucking queen of King's Landing. We get this shot of Alicent seeing her father beheaded on the floor, the slow rise of her eyes to Rhaenyra, who immediately starts crying again at this. Her eyes start welling up, knowing that she has hurt Alicent. And so, like, this is the sacrifice that Alicent made, right? Because Aegon's not here. She promised Rhaenyra that Aegon would be here, that Rhaenyra could kill Aegon to take the throne. He's not here. And so this is like the best thing that they get, because Aemond's not here either. And so I think that like we're dealing with this like betrayal kind of both ways. And yet finally our girls are together, and I can't wait to see what unfolds for our characters moving forward. All right, let's crack open the burn book, where we will look at the superlatives for this episode. The Bold and Bothered Award, strictly for the Femme and the Furious, and it goes to Rhaenyra, who says, "Bring Aegon, the usurper, to me." That line is almost as good as a Negroni Spagliato with Prosecco in it. It's so good when she says this line, just like phenomenal, chef's kiss, loved it. The Shiro Award goes to the baddie who is the most inspiring, or the moment that is the most empowering, and it goes to Helena, who goes, "No beast shall be harmed." Girly pop, you are a girl after my own heart, because let me tell you, I would also be telling people to stand down and not shoot my dragon, or anyone's dragon. I'd be like, just leave the dragons alone, let them hang out. The Femme Fatale Award, for the most smash the patriarchy moment of the episode. And of course, it's going to Rhaenyra sitting on the throne, taking the throne. Finally, we've got our queen, and she's got her throne. Speak your truth trophy, the best quote or line. So Sir Rickard says to Daemon, you are brazen, I credit you this, brazen or thick. And Daemon says, I suppose that depends on whether I win or lose. And I thought that was such a great line. And then honorary heartthrob, because I'm just a girl, okay? And I want to talk about the most swing-worthy moments, and it's always going to be a Daemon Targaryen for me. But it's specifically when he says, we will be the queen's fist, none will stand against us. I love my little Daemon Targaryen. All right, everybody. Thank you for listening to this episode. I will see you tomorrow for the Dames of Democracy. I love you all so much. And until then, the veil is vast, but I do not wish to see you again.